After a wild and intense week of racing action at Summit Point Motorsports Park last week, the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors Championship heads off across the pond, the Donington National Circuit in the UK for its 5th round of the 2020 Season 3 season. Welcome to SYM TV. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Finian DeCuna and Steve Ray this afternoon for our 5th round of the season at one of the premier United Kingdom racetracks out in the middle of the countryside. It's a beautiful late afternoon as we grid up over 50 cars for our 5th round. Finian, welcome to Donington. This is the first time, I think, in a very long time that you and I have been here together at Donington. This is a really fun racetrack for club level racing, and today is no exception. We came from Summit Point, which is a premier example of a U.S. club track, but this is a bit more on the British side this afternoon. Really excited to get this one underway.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, some fantastic racing. You're seeing a great club circuit. Honestly, one of my favorite British circuits on the iRacing service. So glad to be here with a bunch of Spec Racer Fords, over 50 of them, ready to take action.
We're also joined by Steve Ray. Steve, welcome again to joining us this afternoon. Got a bit of a shoulder injury, so stepping out of the car for the weekend. But we're here at Donington. This is a super fun racetrack. 4 rounds into the season. What's been the assessment so far? How's the racing been from on the racetrack and off of it?
It's been a great season so far. As everybody's seen, we've been maxing out the house every week with 58, 60 cars. This week, the track limits us to 51, and I think we just about maxed that out. So it's been an awesome season so far for the Weekend Warriors.
Qualifying underway right now as we have just about 3.5 minutes left in here again. Of course, the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors is brought to you by 42 Stitches. Whether it's one piece for that special gift or 1,000 to make your organization stand out, 42 Stitches has you covered. Custom embroidery and heat transfer on a wide variety of items, shirts, hats, jackets, even flame retardant applications where safety is a concern. You can check them out at 42stitches.com or shoot them an email to info@42stitches.com to get your project started. So with qualifying underway, we've got our front runners up towards the front. Maurizio Naselli in the 44, and he has gotten 2 victories on the season so far. He's tied David Gaspers in the number 1 atop the standings as they come into the night, or at least atop the standings in terms of the win column. But Gaspers just jumped to P1 in qualifying, so it's going to be another Gaspers and Naselli fight. Which of them do you think has the upper hand this week?
No, this is going to be pretty hard to tell. I think they're so equal on pace for the most part. I mean, they've been tailing each other first and second for Gaspers after an incident at Summit Point. I ended up only able to finish 4th, not up in first or second like he has been swapping back and forth with Naselli throughout the first few races. So interested in seeing if it's going to still be that case here this afternoon, or if we're going to see, maybe someone else try to throw their hat into the ring, maybe another winner this season.
Well, you talk all this about winners. Here's Austin Winter, the number 033. Had a pretty good run last week at Summit Point. He sits 6th right now. Everybody inside the top 10 right now is one of the Spec 1 drivers. The first driver outside of the top 10 that is a Spec 2 driver, that's Greg Stefani in the number 750. He sits 12th. The next driver in Spec 2 all the way back in, it looks like 27th. Kenneth Batley in the 222. So a pretty big gap there in Spec 2, but the Spec 1 car is filling out most of the grid. Separate points championships as we head into our 5th round, and so far it's really been the Spec 1 drivers that have been showing the way, with Gaspers Naselli and Rafael Burbagal in the 28. He sits in 3rd. Felix Simoes in the 31. 4th, Rodrigo Duran. He was on pole or close to it last week in the number 10, and he is currently in 5th in qualifying.
Yeah, and especially going back to Burbagal for a second, last week was his first start in this series, and he ended up getting on the podium. So he's looking to do that exact same thing here as he sits on 3rd place. Oh, actually, just went up to provisional pole.
Wow, that's really, really strong for him. A 1:45.845. That's by a 10th over David Gaspers in the number 1 car. Let's have a quick look at our weather conditions this afternoon. We'll see what we're dealing with here. Air temp 71, track temp 74, so it should be pretty grippy. Not very slippery, slidey like it has been in some weeks past, with some hot track temperatures. Humidity just under 50%. Slightly overcast skies here today, but that means the track is grippy. Let's have a look here at the racing circuit itself, Donington Park. Again, this is the Grand Prix configuration. You can actually see on the middle of your screen here where we're actually taking this chicane and heading all the way down to the hairpin and back around again, versus the short configuration that would typically take you just through a quick right-left chicane. So this is the Grand Prix layout, a little bit longer, a lot more technical on that last sector of the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually see, I think, a little bit of a remnant past the current hairpin. Track would continue to extend all the way out a little bit more, and you can see there's before a little bit of a tree line. There's another. There's where the hairpin, yeah, exactly right there. That used to be the old hairpin at the end of the track.
Really interesting little factoid there, Finney. Thanks for picking that up. Qualifying is complete. Rafael Berbagal going to be the pole sitter here, the number 28. Unless somebody else can overtake him, and it looks like David Gaspers is on track right now, and he's going to head down the hill into the chicanes. He's going to try to carry as much speed as he can through here to see if he can get the pole back away. The first 2 corners on this racetrack, pretty hard right-hander, so you want to be on driver's right.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not a fast lap for him. He just came out of the pit, so he's not going to be able to complete it. So he's not going to be able to answer the call. But Mauricio Nasilli, he actually just came across the line, a 146.6 for him. Actually, he's corrected 146.1, not going to be faster. So it looks like Berbagal is going to be sitting on pole for this race.
Unless somebody else can jump up there and grab a pole position, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So with the rest of the field working their way around, take a moment to talk about what's coming up here in the next couple of weeks for this series. In 1 week's time, we'll be headed to Circuit Zoller. We'll be running the alternate circuit there next week on the 19th. The following week, we'll be at Lime Rock Classic, then Phillip Island, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Tacubas, Nürburgring, Watkins Glen, and Phoenix Road will round out the rest of the season. But we've completed, we're 5 rounds into the season, not quite to halfway, so we've sort of seen where our front runners are going to be. But who in the points, Finian, is looking at like a driver that could go up there and maybe upset those top 2 in Spec 1?
I think really the best chance is really either Felix Simos or Austin Winter. Both those guys 7th and 8th in the standings have been showing themselves near the top as far as pace. You know, both those guys have a few 2 top 5 finishes apiece. However, they just not been that consistent. If they haven't been up in the front, they've been all the way in the back, I imagine, due to crash damage or just not being able to complete the race for some reason or the other. So I think if those guys can get a good day, and Simos, speaking of which, is currently qualified for 4th, Winter back in 8th, I think one of those guys can definitely put themselves up there near the front. And we saw Winter duking it out at some point. I think he's definitely capable of a win. Just needs to actually go out there and get it done.
So, Steve, last week at Summit Point, we had basically 60 cars out there on the racetrack, and we somehow got through almost the entirety of lap 1 with only some minor contacts. Do you think that's going to be a similar situation today? Obviously, the first corner here, not quite as tight as Summit Point, but I do think because it's not as tight, people are more willing to run in there side by side. So is that maybe a concern on the start of this race?
Yeah, turn 1's always concerned, but these guys have been doing a fantastic job this season. I'm hoping that everybody pretty much gets through the first lap. I'm a little concerned with the chicane over on the backside. That's pretty tight, and I'm guessing they'll still be bunched up pretty good when we get over there.
All right, so qualifying is complete, and again, it'll be Rafael Berbagal getting his another pole this season in the number 28 car. We'll see if he can hang on to it here as we head down to the racetrack here at Donington Park. So, as the field grids up, it'll just take us 1 minute to get everything sorted here before we turn them loose. So, I'm waiting to see cars gridding. I don't see anybody gridding yet. I wonder if I have to restart my timing and scoring, Finian, or is everyone else not gridding yet?
No, I see people gridding on my screen.
All right, so looks like
my scoring.
I got to restart my timing and scoring, so give me 1 second here as I reboot that. Before we turn them loose for a pace lap, we'll run through our starting lineup here in just a moment. Just hang tight while I sort that out. In the meantime, Finian, so we talked about what's coming up on the schedule. Lime Rock in 2 weeks' time. That is a very, very tight racetrack for almost 60 cars. We've done it successfully before with MX-5s with Grid Life. How do you think that's going to go in a couple weeks?
I think they'll go decently well. Again, it's going to be the tough part. Again, as you're saying, it's a very tight, very small racetrack. It's going to be hard to give each other drivers a lot of room to work with. We're running the classic layout, so I think it'll be a little bit easier for drivers to navigate. If we had that chicane leading up the hill, that would, I think, cause a lot more chaos for drivers. All
right, so now we got everything kind of rebooted here. Let's roll through our starting lineup here, Finian. On the front row tonight, it's going to be Rafael Berbagal in the number 28 and David Gaspers in the number 1. He'll roll off on the outside of that front row.
And moving on back to row number 2 is going to be Mauricio Naselli lineup in 3rd, next to him Felix Simos in the 4th place position in the 31 car.
In row number 3, Rodrigo Duran in the number 10 and Hugh Haycox in the 34. He'll start in 6th on the outside of row 3.
Moving on back to row 4, it's going to be Florence Arabian in the 7th place position, next to Austin Winter, going to line up in 8th in the 033.
In row number 5 on the inside, Michael Doback's number 32 and Jerry McAreevy in the 67. He starts 10th.
Yeah, as pace car rolls off, we'll let the rest of the scroll across the bottom of the screen. We'll take a look at the weather. that we're going to be facing here this afternoon.
Yeah, again, we already kind of mentioned the 71 degrees in the air, 73 on the racetrack. Relatively tame conditions. Shouldn't be too much of a big deal this afternoon for the temperature and weather. We already mentioned the humidity as well, so drivers will be turning just over 120 miles an hour in the fast sections of this racetrack and avoiding contact as much as possible down into the tight hairpins and the confines of the hairpins here. The Melbourne hairpin down there at the far end of the track. That is a pinch point for sure.
Yeah, indeed, and I think the Ferrari is going to get a lot more spread than we think, because there's still guys not even gone through the first hairpin here as they approach the last one back on to the main street.
Got car around. That looks like it's the 206 maybe. That would be Bob Kern. Yeah, that was the 206, so he actually got turned around. Tells you how tight it is as we roll up onto the front straightaway. Rafael Berbigal is going to bring us to the green flag, and we're racing at Donington National Circuit of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors Championship, brought to you by 42 Stitches. Everybody hunting for the left side of the racetrack as they come down into the first turn. Berbigal clear and free of Gaspers as they head down into the first corner. Behind him, everyone's fanning out very wide as they get down to the corner to try to avoid any trouble. And now we're going to feed down through the twists and turns of Donington.
Yeah, and now heading towards the old hairpin for the first time. This is where it's going to be really sketchy for these drivers to navigate through. You got cold tires, and it's a very fast corner.
High speed, couple cars side by side, deeper in the field. I saw, I think it was Greg Stefani that was behind one of those battles, as Jerry McAreevy in the 67 is up in ninth, following Austin Winter in the 42 of Florence Arabia. But up front, Rafael Berbigal's got the lead. Gasper's behind, and Naselli back to fourth. He wants to grab third spot back away from Rodrigo Duran as they head for the sweeping right-hander at the top of the hill.
He was all over the back of Naselli, almost made contact with him heading up the hill there. As Berbigal doing a great job in the lead at the moment. Gasper's got a bit of a run on the 28 car, but not going to make a run here down into the chicane.
Very high-speed chicane here. Watch the corner cuts. Speeding through here as best you can to set yourself up for a passing opportunity. This is definitely a single-file area, and so far every single one of the 51 drivers we've seen come through here has been single-file, and they're not even going to try anything else. That's just too risky this early in the race. Berbigal got Gaspers all over his rear bumper as they come to conclude the first of what will be approximately 23 laps. So far, no issues down into the hairpin.
Our boys are doing good.
Been good so far. No one spun around. That is amazing. A lap one to not spin out in the hairpin. Very, very good job by the entire field. One lap complete. Berbigal leads at some side-by-side of the background. Finney in the 67, and McAreevy gets his nose chopped by Austin Winter as they head down the front straight.
Yeah, Winter was just able to make the pass into the final hairpin to get himself back up in 8th place where he started. So now he can try to start climbing his way on forward. Oh, so you see a spin in the background.
Antonio Reyes in the 007. He's gone around for a bit of a spin at the exit of turn number 1. Let's have a quick look and see how he found himself in this situation. Got a lot of cars here. I'm surprised we didn't see more than one car go around, but he was right in front of the 37 car. That was being driven by Josh Arnold. He just stepped out on him.
Yeah,
he might have got a little tap there.
Oh, no, he did get a tap into the rear.
I'll admit I was looking at the timing and scoring screen and watching it out of the corner of my eye, so that's my excuse. So the 007 goes around for a loop, and so Reyes will get back rolling as he continues to drop down spots. There's a 333 of Jason Brown. He's got some rear end damage to that car. But Josh Arnold, the driver that got into the back of him, he's got the 56 of Steven Elson behind him. Elson had a very up and down day at Summit Point last week, Finian. Ran up as high as inside the top 10, but didn't quite get a finish there.
Yeah, it was a really good run. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it done. As we see them get really dicey heading towards the chicane. We saw no double file action heading down to there. Oh, and a big dive to the inside.
Dominique Bureau that had to back out of that. It was a bad place for him to be. Maxime de Tomasin in the 919. Get a fan out. Tim van der Molen also. Look at this, Steve. How about 4 wide into the hairpin?
Oh, boys, you better clean it up.
Oh, man, they're 3 wide. They're somehow going to get through there. They paved the racetrack about 40, 50 feet wide there, and they used every little bit of it. Nicely done. As the 35 of Ian Haycox carves his way through. He started the race back in 24th. He's gained 5 spots so far.
Yeah, Bro going to throw it up the inside of Haycox out of the final hairpin to make the pass on Haycox.
2 laps in the book so far, and only 1 spin that we've seen. Everyone else is filed in. You see the 94 in the background. That is Ed Doherty. Having a look up the inside of James Tabor for the 26th spot. Unable to do anything with it. Ian Haycox following Bureau now down the hill. There, I did see a car, Jeff Bixby, slow on the front straightaway. Maybe a slowdown penalty for him.
that's another thing you want to be careful of too, especially, if you get that in the chicane, which I think the place you're more likely to get a cut course penalty by being too aggressive. You're going to have to slow down quite a bit, because if you go anywhere near fast through the hairpins, it's going to add even more time to your slowdown.
Up in a compass now, the race leaders. Berbagal still has it over David Gaspers, and Maurizio Naselli's dropped to 5th, and he has not gone forward. Is that a concern maybe for his pace in comparison to the one of Gaspers?
I don't think so. You've seen the time again. He likes to just kind of sit back, relax for the first 20 minutes or so, and then he starts to climb and charge his way forward. So I think he's just being patient, keeping it calm. He knows he's pretty much up there with the lead pack, which is all you really need to do. You need to at least make sure you're in the lead draft, and then you can just kind of hang out for a bit until the end, once we get to the end of the race.
Yeah, I agree. Mauricio is good about sitting back and doing that. He's also one of the cleanest drivers we got. He's got 4 weeks in a row with 0 incidents in these races.
Super impressive. I mean, it's difficult to run these cars at the limit without stepping over it every once in a while, and for Naselli to have 4 incident-free races so far is just a testament to his skill. Looks like we've got Greg Stefani. He is the race leader in Spec 2. He's got Florence Arabian around in the final corner here, Finian.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He was running in 6th when that happened. Doesn't look like he had any help. He just got loose heading into the hairpin, just too hard in.
There's a look into the braking zone. These cars, as you know, Steve, a lot of lift-off oversteer, and if you don't balance it with a little bit of throttle to keep the car in the right direction, it's pretty easy for them to swap ends on you.
It sure is. These cars were notorious about that. The new tire model has helped out a lot this season, but they still will come around on you, as you see.
It's Florence Arabian now got Dominique Bureau all over him as they head down into Old Hairpin. And a little bit wide on exit. There is a bit of an issue in the background. I do see a car going around. It's Tim van der Molen. Oh, right back onto the racetrack. Gonna back it up. Yeah, try that again. Try that rejoin all over again. And he will get back rolling. There is some left front damage. There was another car involved in that. Yep. It was the 35 of Ian Haycox.
He was just going to point it out there. This is a really tough part of the track. Very high speed and mostly single file. You see him just a late move to the inside. There's not a whole lot of room there. And unfortunately for Tim van der Molen, he's going to fall way down the order all the way back to 45th. Let's
have another look here at exactly how this got set up. As they came down the hill, you're going to see the hole open to the inside. I just don't see that as a really smart move there for the 35. The hole's open, but that doesn't always mean you should shove a car down there this early in the race. On the last lap, that's something different. I'm not sure I would have done that 5 or 6 minutes into the race, but a mistake for sure for the 35.
You can ask Charles Leclerc how a move like that would play out.
More trouble, Paul Jackson. Oh, there's a bunch of cars around here in turn 1. 4 cars all spun around. Oh, the 249 pulls right back on track.
There's a lot of damaged cars and chaos going on through the hairpins. I think drivers trying to limp away from this incident.
So look, this all started. What the car was that? Oh yeah, just a big stack up there, a chain reaction. Everybody scattering about. Paul Jackson was one of them. I think 249 was another. That was Paul Jackson. I'm trying to see what some other numbers. The 287 and Nico Shuk also involved. More trouble now for Chris Murakami. He has also had an issue in the middle of the front straightaway.
It's very late down the stretch. Might have gotten turned by someone. Oh, and that seems to be the case. I'm looking at the replay.
Let's have a look here. Oh, this is the 308 car that was involved.
Yeah, Simon Mayer in that machine.
Back a little farther here to find the replay. Simon Mayer goes around the outside, and it seems like Murakami just refused to give him space on track out and just sort of ran himself off the racetrack with the 308. So not sure I could have blamed Mayer for that.
Yeah, the big thing too, Mayer is the Spec 2 points leader, so that's going to be big for him with major damage to his machine.
Yeah, that's not the position I want to be in if I'm the points leader of any class. So let's check back in on the race lead because Rafael Berbagal continues to lead. Gaspers is in second, Rodrigo Duran third, Felix Simoes fourth, and Naselli a bit of a gap, 1.5 seconds back to fifth.
Gaspers has been our runaway champion for several seasons going, and this season he's got some competition.
Even Elson going around for a bit of a loop in the chicane, going to lose a couple spots. There's Gorka Toure in the 41, and Florence Arabian and Dominique Bureau all in a 4-car fight here as they head to the end of lap number 5.
Yeah, actually just taking a bit of a gander to looking at the last season. Also got to think, Steve, this Google Doc or Google Sheets is awesome. awesome. It shows a lot of stuff and a lot of information. And looking at Nastelli last season, he only had 2 wins, which is I find extremely hard to believe because he seems like he wins almost half the races the way he runs.
He's already matched that this early in the season, so that tells me he's on a championship charge.
Yeah, last season was his first season with us, I believe, and he was, admittedly, he said he was just getting used to doing these league races, the long races, and the format we use.
He's certainly gotten used to it. There's Hugh Haycox, Jerry McAreevy, Adrian Jimenez Vargas in the 65 as they head up to the latter half of the course. We're 10 minutes into this race, 30 left to go. Nicely tucked in line here. A lot of slipstream available at this racetrack, but it's not all in a straight line, Finney, and a lot of high-speed corners where you can even slipstream through them, especially down the hill.
Yeah, it's very important again to keep those ones, keep up that momentum here. So you're trying to make a move, and McAreevy goes out a little bit wide as we head down towards the chicane. And this is a nice little straightaway. It's very tempting to make a pass, and we saw earlier what that can lead to if you don't get it right. It led to a massive incident, so you got to be careful though.
Braking zone, and it's just a dab on the brakes, maybe down a gear, and then slinging it through. And then really focusing on your exit here is so important because this leads to a passing zone. And this is such a good one because the corner radius differential between the inside and the outside of the track is so large. And it's like they're all going to run single file through there, drag a little bit of dirt back on course. Kenneth Batley in the 222 has had issues heading into the chicane. Let's see how he found himself here. He was in front of the 94 car, or popped out of line. That was being driven by Ed Doherty. And behind, man.
Steven Elson was the car that hit him in the 56 machine.
Couple bumps and bangs now that we're sort of into the race a little bit. After having the first 2 or 3 laps go very clean, we've had a couple incidents here and there. But for the race lead, here comes Gaspers on driver's left of the 28 as they head into the fastest section of the course. Very tight as they head down the hill. Inches between them, and Gaspers on the outside, Burbigal on the inside. Burbigal's going to re-clear him. Gaspers crosses over. Excellent racing at the front of the field on the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors Championship.
You know, he's got to be a little bit careful when you head to the old hairpin because it seems very wide of a corner, but it's very much single lane. But Gaspers now going to chuck it up the inside of Burbigal. Burbigal going to try to sit himself back underneath, try to do an over-under. He can't quite get it done.
And here comes Samoz from third. It looked like he was going to push the 28, but Burbigal's going to go back on the inside. Oh, he crashes! He takes it out, and they're both going to slide off the racetrack, and Gaspers is in the gravel trap. And the 2 race leaders very quickly go from first down to the bottom half of the top 5 with their big off there at the far side of the racetrack. What a big turn of events and a lot of damage to the 1 car.
And for the second week in a row, too, he's been punted off the track. So this has not gone, these last 2 weeks have not particularly gone good for Gaspers to no fault of his own.
Yeah, and last week it was a lap car, which hurt pretty bad. This week, racing for the top spot. That's going to be huge in terms of the championship. Let's go back and have a look here. We saw the issue. It was just a slight, I'm not sure if it was a miscalculation or what, but the 28 just goes off into the corner and just gets loose. Right here, he's going to lift off. He's on the brakes, and the car just steps out and just knocks him off track. Burbigal got the worst end of it, but the damage, I think, to the 1 car is going to be even worse than the off.
I guess he's going to actually pull the car to the pits. I think might as well just fix the car up and also get some fuel to boot.
Yeah, we should just be entering the pit window now.
Yes, that might have been, I don't want to say a blessing in disguise, but maybe not as bad as we could have thought. He's got that car repaired now, just waiting on the fuel for that car. And now this totally changes Marisa Naselli's goal here, because now that the pit window has opened and his foe has already entered, how does this change Naselli's strategy here?
I don't think it does at all, especially considering that Gaspers was pretty far behind when he came in. I think Naselli might just kind of stick out here, run with Duran and Samoz, run in their draft here and just kind of tail them as he's been doing for the majority of this race. And again, as I was talking about, he's just been hanging back a little bit as Duran goes a bit off the track, just kind of hanging back a bit and letting these guys race out and, you know, get into their own incidents. And he's still driving clean. I still imagine 0 incidents for him.
Staying very clean right now as they head towards the chicane. Euro Razki, and the 205 has gone around. As I just switched to him because I saw he was in the middle of a battle, and of course, as soon as I switch there, he gets turned. Let's have a look. It was the 28 was in this battle. Was there a touch here? Oh no, the 205 just got loose. The 28 had nothing to do with it. And Rasky just lost control, got on the grass there on corner entry. See, that's another common way of losing these cars is you crowd the edge of the track a bit too much and you drop the left or right rear tire off in the dirt.
Yeah, you try to give somebody a little room, and you just touch the grass, and these things go around.
Maxime de Tomasin in the 919. Wansi Lin in the number 30. On his day so far, Finian, from 14th to 11th, a good climb. But he's got Greg Stefani, the Spec 2 race leader, right behind him.
Yeah, I'm looking for a certain driver who definitely likes to start in the back and climb his way forward. Philippe Chauvin is the name I'm looking at the moment. I'm not sure if Yannick swapped or if that's...
Nope, Yannick is still here. Yannick is went from 50th to 34th, so his weekly climb through the field is already going on. Simon Mayer, we documented his issue earlier. Look at the damage on this car. That is shortened up significantly. I cannot imagine that's a lot of fun to drive right now.
Yeah, absolutely not. I wouldn't be... I'm kind of surprised he hasn't come into...
Oh, there he goes.
There, yeah. The Chauvins are father-son. Philippe is the dad, and Yannick is the son.
Ah, well, like father, like son, because they both started in the back, so they worked their way up through the orders, so...
Philippe so far the top runner of those two. Handful of drivers have made pit stops already, but up front, still a 3-car breakaway. Naselli just sort of saving fuel, saving time, and kind of using the draft to run some pretty quick laps. The one of Gaspers is back out on track, and he has yet to run a full lap since he's gotten back out, so I'm curious to see what his lap time will be. But it seems like deeper in the field, lap times are in the 147s. Up in the front right now, mid-146s. So if he's still losing time, that would be a concern to me in terms of his race win hopes. But if he's running quicker, it's all up in the air.
Yeah, I'm looking at it based off of their pit lane time. It looks like he's gonna potentially spit out about maybe 5 seconds within our leaders here. So I'm curious to see if any of them come down to pit road this time by, if we can kind of gauge how Gasper is in relation to them.
Thomas Renders in the 641, he's on through. He is a Spec 2 driver and currently the 3rd Spec 2 driver right now. So on the bottom step of the podium of that class. There's Rafael Berbagal in the 28. Remember, started on pole and had the issue. It's 27th after his pit stop. Currently 2nd of the drivers that have made a stop already. Car spun right in front of him. That is the, let's see what car that is. The 23 of Jeff Bixby. He's in a bad spot right here.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of these drivers are going to have a bit of surprises around the hairpin if they're not able to see him, but gets a loop back around with a hole in traffic and will go on his way.
So he'll get back up to speed here. They jump back up to the front, 3 cars. All line of start here as we approach the halfway point. Are they going to split this right in half? Is that the strategy? Or just run the till the tank is out?
It's kind of two schools of thought, I think. You can run the tank out, or really you could run it to the point where you just need to fill gas in up till you're good to the end. So let's see which one of these two the guys decide. Steve, I'm going to ask you this because I'm not too familiar with these cars and how they drive. Does having extra fuel in the tank actually matter, or is a lighter car going to be faster by quite a bit?
I don't think it matters a whole lot, maybe slightly. I typically pit as early as I can and let it fill up so I can get to the end. And most of the front runners seem to go as far as they can and then have a short pit.
Drag race into the chicane area here. Kurt Nunez in the 18. He's the driver on the right in the blue. And Maxime de Tomasin in the 919 on the left. And looks like Nunez will grab 16th spot away. David Gaspers ran a pretty comparable lap time to the leaders last time by, so it doesn't look like his pace has been hurt by being deeper in traffic. Look at this group here. Yori Cox in the 286. Yannick Chauvin around the inside, and Philippe Chauvin as well, as they're all going to string on through. And there's Greg Stefani, who was the Spec 2 race leader before his pit stop.
Yeah, and he's actually eyeing at taking the lead, the points lead in that class, with Mayer having some problems. He was only 5 points behind Mayer going into this round, so you can see a new Spec 2 leader coming out of Donington.
Yeah, and I don't think Mayer's situation is really going to improve a whole lot. He's got his damage repaired, however, buried pretty deep in the field, and even though there's a lot of drivers left to make his pit stop, I don't really see him having a top 15 run today. And that is certainly a possibility for Stefani. Meanwhile, Gaspers is back up to 18th. Our front, looks like our front 17 drivers have still not come in. Keeping an eye on Austin Winter in the 033 because he is at the leading edge of a 4-car fight for 4th. Hugh Haycox, Winter, McAreevy, and Vargas.
Yeah, they will kind of sort out their own little group here, about 6 seconds off of our leaders. I am sure there can't be too many plans to really try to catch up the leaders ahead. I don't think there's really much they can do except pretty much battle it out amongst themselves.
Kurt Nunez approaching the rear of Ed Doherty. Either of these cars is pit yet, so this is for position. Already got a little bit of right rear damage. Look at the camber on the right rear tire of that car. Playing with a lot of setup. Try to get this thing handling right. Dominique Bureau has gone around right at the exit of the chicane here. Pull over to driver's right to let the rest of the field on by again. This is probably another one of these off-throttle oversteer situations. Here is a look. Following the 37 of Josh Arnold, and just kind of tank slaps around, trying to not get a cut course there. And loops it. He'll get back on track in 16th.
Yeah, just too much curb, it seemed to be, which I know is blasphemous for you here.
Yeah. Well, the curbs at Donington, and this is an interesting discussion because on the short course, you can definitely take too much curb because that final chicane is really gnarly, bright red sausage curbs. The GP layout, you can take pretty much every curb around here because they're so flat. The problem is that can get you into trouble with cut courses, and also there's places, including the chicane and the first corner, where the dirt is actually dug up behind the backside of the curb, and you can dip the tire off there. It can really upset the suspension.
Yeah, that chicane curb will definitely bounce you around and cause a spin like you just saw.
Some lap traffic for the leaders, and that gives Simoes just a bit of a lead, 0.7 of a second over Duran in the 10. And Duran started his race in 5th. He's climbed up to 2nd. Good run for him. Checking in a couple other drivers. Sergio Dorelli, 11th back to 12th. He's had a pretty quiet day so far in the number 86. He's trying to stay out of trouble.
I was going to say, he just had a bit of a slide as he's trying to just force the car to turn right through that long sweeping right-hander.
Bit of a scrap here for 4th. Hugh Haycock's winner and McAreevy down into Melbourne hairpin. Looks like Haycock's is going to hang on to that for now. McAreevy had a look at awesome winner on driver's right, but had trouble getting the power to the ground. And here comes Vargas up the inside into the final corner. Going to try to chuck it up there and maybe grab 6th spot away. Oh, he's going to get in deep. Oh, he's going to take out winner with him, and they're both going to spin. Just got in too deep. And they're immediately probably going to head for pit lane. No, they're going to stay out on the racetrack. I would have thought they would have come right in after that.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at that as well, so we'll see here. But looking at a replay, and Vargas just too deep on the brakes.
Yeah, he knew it too. He locked up the rears there, and I'm sure he'll be apologetic about that, but definitely a mistake on Vargas's part. Bunch of drivers hitting pit lane this time through. Hiro Razki looks like he is down at the bottom of the order. I thought he had come in, but it looks like he is not. McAreevy did hit pit lane. Ian Haycox has come on down. Stephen Elson's came on down. Bobby West, Antonio Reyes. Kurt Nunez looks like he is on down pit lane as well.
There's the other Haycox. I think that's another father-son trio duo there. I believe Ian's the dad and Hugh's the son.
Ian back in 30th right now. His pit stop has been completed, and Hugh Haycox has also completed his stop. He's up in 13th, so much better day for Hugh so far than for Ian. Battle in the front straightaway there. There's Antonio Reyes right behind. Remember, we saw this car turned around in turn 1 early in the going. He's recovered quite nicely, back up to 28th, but still has a ways to go to get back where he started.
Yeah, took them behind here, and looking behind them, Bobby West and Jeff Cantor also kind of running in a small little group that's starting to form.
Carrying as much momentum as possible through these sweeping corners at the bottom edge of the track, and the momentum wants to carry you right out into the gravel there, so it's an exercise in patience. Exercise in patience as they can't come down there. You have to really wait on throttle, make sure that you don't overrun the corner. There's Bobby West in the 89, as you mentioned, Finney. You saw the car yaw sideways, and the car is off. Ian Haycox through the dirt. Here comes the 007 up the inside.
This is a tough corner to be side by side through. Very awkward navigating. You see for West nowhere to go as he starts to get back on power.
He's going to have position on the 007. He might tuck in line. And I know you hear him lift there, so he is going to back out. It's the 35 and 007. They might try this. Looks like Ian Haycox will have the spot. The 007 keeps the nose in, gets crossed up by the 89. 3 wide as they head down to the Melbourne hairpin.
closely here. Someone's probably going to give him already. One of them is back down up the middle, and now it's just Haycox and West now into the Melbourne hairpin.
Cox around the outside, West on the inside. Now the track's going to cross back to driver's left with a hard left for the end of the lap. See if Haycox gets crossed up by Bobby West. Here comes the 007 back. Great battle here. This is all for about 27th spot, and Haycox is wide at corner exit as the 007 peels off for pit lane.
Yeah, he's been really struggling with that. Twice you've been, after watching this battle, we've seen him go off the track.
Let's go back up to the top spot. 15 minutes to go. Simoes, Duran, and Naselli. They're down in the Melbourne hairpin. You'd have to imagine that their pit window is going to be closing relatively soon, so you'd want to hit pit lane. If you're Naselli, you're going to pit with these guys or pit ahead of them or behind them?
I think if I was him, I don't really want to play any games. I think best is try to come in with them. I think it might be better just to kind of stick with them than to try anything else.
Where is David Gaspers? And they've been running pretty much identical times, so I would expect Gaspers to cycle out to be behind Naselli in the 44. And then our 2 points leaders will have to duke it out to the end, but Simoes and Duran have also been really solid. Have not shown any signs of weakness here. So who's to say that Naselli or Gaspers wins this race? There's two other drivers right up at the front that are perfectly capable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Gaspers is going to be it's going to be tough for him to try to win this race. Naselli obviously well in the mix, but Duran and Simoes looking really strong. Simoes especially, too. He's been lining up for win, ran really well at Road Atlanta. Didn't quite get the strategy right. I think we made a mistake on pit road that cost him the win there, but was running in the lead group.
Well, he's led over half the race so far, Steve, as we head into the final 15 minutes of this race, so maybe the favorite here at the end.
Yeah, Simoes is about due. He's had some good races, and like you said, the strategy got him a couple of times and just didn't quite put it together, but he's about due.
Some lap traffic up ahead, and you have to imagine, Finney, that they're going to hit pit lane before they catch that traffic. You don't really want to be dealing. We saw Gaspers actually run into lap traffic last week, or get run into, so I would be hitting pit lane before I catch that group if I was them.
Yeah, we've seen in the past, so these guys still decided to stay out and work through the traffic, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do, but we are starting to run out of time, and I can imagine they've only got so much gas left in the tank as well.
We typically say we've got about 30 minutes of fuel for the 40-minute race, so that kind of gives you an idea where the fuel window is.
Yeah, so we're basically 2 laps away, and right here, well, 2 of the 3 are going to pull off. Rodrigo Duran stays out. I don't know if that was a mistake, or maybe he's going to use the draft here on the 793 who's in front of him. That car being driven today by Theo Taylor in the 793 car, so that might be a race-winning move. It might also be a move that takes him out of the running. But Naselli and Simoes are in pit lane. Where's David Gaspers? He is entering the final corner now.
Yeah, we really get to see what's the gap really between our leaders. Simoes out and away, so is Naselli. Both of them now just exiting pit road, and you see Gaspers pretty much to the length of half the length of the front straightaway is between them.
And Hugh Haycox is right there as well. He's already made his pit stop, so he's done. He'll be up inside the top 5 if everything cycles out the way things are. But Naselli up into what will be second if Duran loses time here. But you see Sergio Dorelli, he is not pit holding up Simoes here, so that could cost them time. Where is Rodrigo Duran? He's still behind the 793, so maybe this is helping him. If he has a pretty quick lap here, guys, this could be a race-winning move for Rodrigo.
I think that's probably what he fancied, is just kind of sticking out, being in some cleaner air, relatively speaking, to work with. Because remember, Simoes is up ahead of him, so now he can just kind of push here. It might say maybe another lap might come in this lap. We'll see how he has to where he's going to come in comparison to the 31 and the 44.
Now, another lap might be pushing it on fuel. I think he'd have to come this time. But we're going to see how this pans out for him. We'll have to hold off the drivers behind him for 10 minutes. Once this pit stop is over. Now remember, he was actually in second before the sequence started here. So if he comes out leading, all he needs to get is basically a second, not even a second, on pit lane. It looks like he is going to hit pit lane right here. So here he comes.
Whoa, that was a very late and very close entry to the wall. But
that could have been. Yeah, that could have been an unsafe entry there. That might get him a penalty.
See if that's the case as he is in. Let's go back and see how close it was. I think he might have made it. I think he was down to speed too. I think he might be good as he leaves the pit box.
He's good.
Where is Felix Simoes, here he comes. I think that Duran might be able to pull out in front of him. It's going to be very, very close. And Rodrigo Duran, not quite. By a nose, he gets beaten to turn number 1. Simoes going to have the inside lane. Duran, though, certainly gained some time there, but it wasn't quite enough to get the lead from Simoes. But he's going to have a great run here as they head down towards Old Hairpin.
The thing is, these cars take quite a while to get back up to speed, and Duran was hoping that he could try to get clear and slam in front of Simoes, but wasn't quite able to get it done. But yeah, you said put right back where he left, right behind the tailpipe. So Simoes, we'll see if he can try to get it done here now. Essentially, the race is on.
Well, yeah, and that was, if he had gotten in front of Simoes, that would have been a very crucial moment. But again, just needed a little bit more torque out of the pit lane. And he's going to be sitting in second, though, but Naselli is the one I'm watching. He's been too quiet. I don't think he's even led a lap this race, which we can confirm right here. No laps led. I just don't think this race is going to end that way.
Yeah, watch Naselli now. This is the time that he takes the gloves off.
10 minutes to go at Donington Circuit for the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, brought to you by 42 Stitches, the 5th round of the 2020 Season 3 season. And it is a 3-horse race at the front. Gaspers is 5 seconds back. You see him in the background there with Hugh Haycox in the blue and silver 34. Race is on up front. Rafael Berbegal, who started on pole, tangled with the 1 car. He's back in 10th.
Oh, no, he's around.
Oh, it's the commentator curse today, isn't it? For the 5th time, I think, this afternoon, we've been watching a car directly when they spin, but Berbegal going to get back on course. What was a top 10 going to dwindle down to maybe not even a top 15 as it stands. Josh Arnold to the inside. That is for 14th spot.
And I just think the back end really has come out, I think was pushing it a little bit too hard into the chicane. And around it went on him. It was really unfortunate after, as you're saying, was having a really good drive, but it's going to drop him just outside the top 10 into 13th.
Only a handful of retirements so far, only 4 out of the 51 drivers that started this race. Surprisingly little amount of contact given the number of cars. Wansi Lin in the 30.
Well, contact with the leaders, and they're side by side for first place here out of the Old Hairpin.
Oh, man.
And Duran has just got around Timos with the help of a lap car.
Wow, that is amazing. We got to go back and take a look at that as they came down the hill here. Here is Duran chasing the 31. It was the 204 car. And looked like the 31 had to pinch his entry off, and a 10 squeezed on through. I don't know if they touched, but they certainly got by that lap car with only a little bit of space left. But Rodrigo Duran to the top spot as he comes out. And they approach a big group of lap traffic here with 8 minutes to go.
It's going to be very dicey here, depending on where the lap traffic lets them on by. It looks like a few Taylor's going to pull off and let the leading group on through.
Oh, man, the 893. That car being driven by Ian Gibson. That's going to stack him up a little bit. Here comes Naselli now with a big run to driver's left. We'll see if he sweeps to the right into the hairpin or if he'll wait for the final corner. Duran goes way inside to get to the inside of Gibson. Naselli, he has to almost stop. He has to put the binders on to avoid running into the back of Gibson. Side by side, Simoes with a run up the driver's right. Nowhere to go, though. He'll have to tuck back in line for the final corner.
Almost try to have a look up the outside. Might still fancy that. He's going to try to do a crossover here. Duran, very poor entry and run through the hairpin. Simoes up the inside. 7.5
minutes to go, and Simoes is going to pull even, but not quite be able to clear Duran. So Duran going to hang on now. He's going to chop the nose of the 31 off into turn number 1. And Naselli lost some ground, but while these two fight, he's going to have no problem getting that time back.
Yeah, so some more lap cars up ahead. Actually, I'm trying to double check that. There's a few. There's a bit of open track. We got Tom Gradwell up ahead in 43rd. It's the next lap car they got to deal with.
It's only one. It's a little bit easier than catching a group of cars. So Simoes right behind Rodrigo Duran here as they head up the hill under the bridge. And the gloves are off, and the elbows are out. A bit of a late turn in there for Simoes. He's going to try to apex a little bit later. Didn't lose any time, but a little bit slow on the turn in, and that's going to bring Naselli right up to the rear tailpipes of these cars again, 1 through 3 all together. Meanwhile, Haycox and Gaspers have eaten in about a second away from the 3 leaders gap that they had on the 4th and 5th place cars.
I'm actually, if something does happen with our leaders, these guys are going to be a factor. I'm sure Gaspers is kind of hoping and praying for that. I'm sure he doesn't want to have another week outside the top 3 due to being hit off track.
Around the outside of the 43rd place car, they'll go and put them a lap down. 6 minutes to go now. And Simoes, we've seen him be aggressive. Duran runs a little bit wide, and the opportunities are opening up here. But I'm not sure if that's the opportunity you want. I don't think you want to be on the right coming to the final corner unless you can plan on pinching the driver to the left and making them kind of overshoot and then cutting under them in the coming to the front straight. So 5 minutes and 50 to go, about 4 laps worth of racing.
And looking at Untitled to really start pushing now. He's starting to run out of time as we got just about 4 laps to go in the race. Gonna have to start really putting in some good times and trying to close the gap a little bit between Simoes and Duran, and gotta account too that these guys are gonna start fighting for the lead amongst themselves.
Haycox and Gasper still 4th and 5th, 3.4 back, so they're definitely not completely out of it yet. Towards Old Hairpin and then to McLean's, Duran and Simoes continuing their dogfight at the front of the field.
Yeah, Duran's got a little bit of body damage there on the left rear, which might get his speed a little bit on the long straight, give the guys a little more draft on him.
Could help a little bit. I mean, these cars do seem pretty sensitive to their straightaway speed when you damage them, and they're not easy to overcome that slow speed on the straights. It's very hard to block when a track is this wide, and blocking probably no bueno here. So Duran's going to have to get really creative, figure out how to keep Simoes behind him in the closing moments here.
Having a bit of a look as they head towards the chicane. Looks like he's just trying to scare Duran out of it.
Oh, big cut there for the 10. Gotta be careful with that. It's so easy to step over that line and have to give up time, and that would certainly throw away any chance at a race win. Gaspers and Haycox in the background, you see they're side by side for 4th, and they're actually losing time to the leaders here. I'm not sure if they're trying to work together, but it's not working either way.
No, I don't think they really are trying to work together. I don't think there's really much they can do being that far back. If there was a second back, yeah, that's more easier to work together with, but 3.5 seconds with so few laps remaining, I don't think they can quite do too much. They're just kind of battling amongst themselves.
4 minutes to go, 3 laps worth of racing here at Donington National Circuit. 42 Stitches brings you the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior Championship. 5 rounds in. Okayama, Interlagos, Road Atlanta, Summit Point. It's been an international battle so far that has been mostly won by 2 drivers, Naselli and Gaspers, but they're buried at the bottom half, or the bottom side of the podium, 3rd and 4th. And Duran and Simoes, who have had good runs this season, they sit in position to grab a victory here away from the incumbents so far.
And Simoes another good run on Duran here up into this complex of corners, and he's just kind of trying to and force Duran into an error. And I'm trying to think if that's actually going to work or not, because Duran so far seems relatively unfazed.
Well, I can tell you that Duran's using a bit more racetrack, and that's a little bit concerning to me because Simoes is able to run the same pace. Obviously, he's got the draft here, but he's able to run the same pace without using the extra 2 or 3 feet of pavement when they get to the curbing. Here comes Simoes up the inside, drag race to the chicane. Bails out of that. That was going to be really, really dicey and tight, but again, you see how much, the 31 almost cut the latter half of the chicane. You've got to be careful with those corner cuts.
He was running a really aggressive line, through that chicane now into the hairpin deep on the brakes. Simoes tries to get a better run in and out of the corner than Duran, but nowhere to go because obviously the right there on the curbs is the quickest place to be.
Big lap traffic in front of these drivers now. Big dive into the final corner. Nowhere to go yet.
Gibson.
Yeah, it's Gibson again. They've actually passed this car a little while ago, so they're going to have to make their way back by again. 2 laps left at Donington. Ooh, Gibson crowds the leader just a little bit. Duran hunts for the left side of the track. He's got about 3 car lengths over the 31, but it's all going to dwindle here. And Simoes probably going to back up a little bit to use that gap to build some momentum on the leader.
And Naselli got squeezed out by Gibson again. Naselli had trouble with Gibson last time they were getting past him. And now he's lost a ton of time here in these closing laps.
It's got to be so frustrating to not only get pinched by a lap car, but by the same lap car twice. So Naselli lost a bunch of ground, but I don't think he's out of it yet. These front 2, they're going to get side by side. You just have to take advantage of when they are like that. But it is a pretty sizable gap now, 1.5 seconds. It might just be between these 2, and that just gave Simoes a big smile on his face because now he can focus on his one goal, and that is beating the number 10.
Yeah, the remaining lap car is pulling out of the way, so they got a decent amount of clean check to the next lap car to work with and battle it out amongst themselves. I'm just curious more or less where Simoes is going to make this patch team get a great run down to this chicane.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go defensive here, Finian. I don't like the inside line because you're going to get pinched on the entry. Oh, he crowds Simoes all the way on the curbing through the chicane now. Going to run out a little bit wide and exit. Simoes tucks it in, but I don't like that defensive line through there. I think that might lose you the race. I just don't feel confident that you can maintain that inside line. Simoes looks over to driver's right. The 10 goes defensive, and now Simoes going to try to cross him up at corner exit here at the Melbourne hairpin. 44 seconds left. White flag next time by.
A little bit of a sloppy hairpin for Simoes, turning just a little bit too early for Duran, but yeah, now he's only got essentially one more left to work with. Ooh, almost looked like a late dive up the inside here into the final hairpin.
White flag in the air. One more lap around Donington National Circuit. 25 seconds left on the clock, and one lap left in the UK here for our 5th round of the Weekend Warriors as Duran leads Simoes into turn number 1. A car length and a half separating them. Now the run down the hill. This is where Simoes is going to build all the momentum he can. The 10 car ran wide, grabbed some dirt, and now the battle is on.
Yeah, they gave him a very poor run, which is very important to have heading down to the old hairpin. You can see how much Simoes is catching up, especially with the draft as well.
We'll see what Simoes has, because he's been testing and seeing what he could learn the last 10 laps.
Here he comes, the driver's right. The 10 car going to crowd him a little bit. Are they going to touch? They do. They bang doors as they head up the hill. Side by side for the race lead, the 31 and the 10. Through the corner, the 10 sweeps around the outside. Simoes still has overlap.
And sliding on the brakes as well. He is still side by side now up the hill into the sweeping right-hander.
Oh,
Simoes
Simoes sideways!
And a slide job. How about that on a road course? Gonna just get ahead of Duran.
Did the 10 car get a slowdown, or did he just lose momentum at the exit of the corner? All the speed is gone in the 10 car Rodrigo Duran, and somehow Simoes pulled that move off.
Yeah, it looked like Duran missed a shift, and that's very crucial because he's not going to really have a lot of time to climb
that's
back.
A cut.
He's going to, I think, get a cut going through the chicane.
If he didn't get a cut, he is the luckiest man on earth right here.
Yeah, I think he's going to lose second right here.
That's frustrating for sure. And here comes Naselli, who will probably walk out of here as the points leader because Gaspers is going to finish behind him here, Finian.
Yeah, I think Duran's trying to shut off the time a bit. He was slowing down a little bit on the entry into the hairpin. He's going to try to defend from Naselli in behind.
Felix Simoes with an epic slide job pass at the far side of the racetrack. He comes on through. He led this race 10 laps, and the 10th lap that he led will be the final one. Felix Simoes wins at Donington Circuit. Second place, Rodrigo Duran. Naselli, third. Gaspers, fourth. Jerry McAreevy, fifth. Haycock's winner. Dobak, Sadro, and Vargas, the rest of your top 10.
What a fantastic race. Congrats to Felix Simoes. The fantastic drive. It did everything exactly what he needed to do on that last lap and nailed it to perfection.
Let's go back and have a look here at the slide that he somehow pulled off on the number 10 here. And this was just such an epic maneuver, and you don't see stuff like this a lot. This is something that happens a lot in oval racing, but this is amazing. He's just going to chuck it down the inside. Watch the steering. Just all the way crank left and right in front of the 10 car. Beautiful, beautifully executed move here by the number 31.
I want to ride on board with him as well because, typically when you're sliding on a road course, you're typically crashing. And he just slid into there and held the slide. But look at this.
And just
look at that.
Powered right out of it like it was no big deal. Here's Duran. Up the inside comes Simoes and slip slide right in front. You couldn't slide a piece of paper between them on corner exit, but somehow Simoes got it done. What a pass, what a move, what a race for those drivers. Here's a look at the results. Pass them on down here. Simoes, Duran, Naselli, Gaspers, and McAreevy are top 5 as we mentioned. What a race. Down 10th or 11th through 20th, I should say. Looking down the order to try to find where the 28 finished. And you're going to have to look down, let's see, how far down do we have to look for the 28 car?
There's Greg Stefani got the win for S2.
Yeah, so Greg Stefani, again, we didn't really talk about Spec 2 a whole lot today. It wasn't really close for the most part. Greg Stefani just drove away, and he ended up winning Spec 2. The next Spec 2 car would have been Maxime de Tomasen back in 21st. Then Kenneth Batley, he was the bottom step of the podium in Spec 2 in the 222 car. Then Simon Mayer, not a great day for him in the 308. Then Thomas Renders, another Spec 2 driver. Then a whole host of them rounding out the bottom half of the top 20, and then or the top 30, I should say. Continue to look down the order. Now, where did the 28 go? I'm still looking, Finian. Oh, all the way down in 46th. for Rafael Barbagal. So not the day that he wanted after sitting on pole and leading some laps.
Yeah, and he was looking like he would be one of the favorites to take the win here at Donington. Unfortunately, didn't play out that way, especially after such a good run. Best of luck to him next week.
All right, so we're going to take a moment here. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back with you for interviews. If the drivers join us here in just a moment, we'll be right back. Stick with us. Welcome back to SYM TV and the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior Championship, round number 5 from Donington Circuit. We're here with our race winner in the number 31, Felix. What an epic slide there at the end to get in front of Rodrigo Duran. Take us through that last lap, charging by the 10 car, and then going full opposite lock to slide out in front of him. As Dale Jr. would say, slide job. What an epic job. Take us through that last lap.
Yeah, it was really fun. So, yeah, I knew that I could pass Rodrigo on pure speed because he had some damage on his car. So, and the idea was to pass him after the old hairpin. He did a mistake which made my life easier, but then he really fought for it. We had some really nice side by side, and then on that slide, I mean, yeah, was a bit of luck. And luckily we have this new tire model on these cars, because if it was with the old one, I think at least I would be out of the race, if not also Rodrigo. I was really cool.
It seemed like today it also got very busy with the lap traffic. How difficult was it to navigate the lap down cars? And you think it was just a product of this racetrack having a pretty narrow racing line through some of these fast corners?
Yeah, I think that's it. Some of the back markers, as soon as they saw us coming, they would pull over. Others not necessarily, but I think overall, at least from where I was, me and Rodrigo and Naselli, I don't think we had much problems. And yeah, time to time here and there, but overall, I wouldn't say there was too much problem. But yes, the lap traffic was a factor.
All right, Felix. Hey, congratulations on your race win. A really, really impressive job. Made me cheer a little bit because that was one of the coolest moves we've seen in the series so far. So congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Welcome. Moving on now to our Spec 2 race winner. It's Greg Stefani in the number 750. 14th overall, Greg, today. And another win in Spec 2. Got to be pretty happy with how that turned out. And you should be getting pretty close to leading that category as we exit this week and head off to round number 6.
Yeah, between the incident point bonus and the result, I'm pretty happy with that result. I felt like the whole race was a bit sloppy on my part, but made it work.
I was talking to Felix, the race winner in Spec 1, about the traffic out there. What was it like from your perspective, and how crazy was the mid-pack, especially at the start of the race?
I'd say the mid-pack was no crazier than my driving was for the most part. But yeah, some of the lap traffic was a little bit difficult.
And heading on to next week, we head to Circuit Zolder and then to Lime Rock. Of the next 2 weeks, Zolder and Lime Rock, which of those two tracks do you think is your best chance at continuing to rack up these victories?
Well, I've never driven Zolder, so I'm keen to try it. But yeah, I have no idea what it'll be like.
All right, Greg. Hey, congratulations on a Spec 2 race victory. We'll see you next week at Zolder.
Thanks.
All right, Finney, that's going to wrap things up from the interview side this afternoon. Our 2 race winners in each class, Felix and Greg. Thanks to them for jumping in here. Your thoughts, Finney, after watching what was a very entertaining race here at Donington?
Yeah, another great race for this series. The guys have been putting on a phenomenal show, especially for the race leads. These guys is absolutely going at it. Some great driving and great driver etiquette as well. These guys have been extremely respectful to one another. And it really shows on the track, and it makes for a very entertaining show.
And Steve, your thoughts after watching this one? Another really good week of racing, but we head to Zolder next week, another racetrack that a lot of drivers may not have experienced at. So your thoughts after Donington, moving on to Zolder next week?
Yeah, Zolder's going to be interesting. Like you said, not a lot of experience there, but these is a great bunch of guys, as you've seen, and I think they'll put on another great show.
All right, thank you so much, Steve, for joining us here. And again, we want to thank our sponsor, 42 Stitches, for coming on board and sponsoring the Spec Racer 4 Weekend Warriors. And of course, 42 Stitches, whether it's one piece for that special gift or 1,000 to make your organization stand out, 42 Stitches has you covered. Custom embroidery and heat transfer on a wide variety of items, shirts, hat, jackets, and even flame retardant applications where safety is a concern. You can check them out at 42stitches.com or shoot them an email to info@42stitches.com to get your project started. That's going to do it for us this afternoon here on a beautiful Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week at Circuit Zolder. If you want to watch more SYM TV, you're in luck. Got lots going on this week. We've got, of course, the season finale for the 3-Wide Racing League Grand National Series tomorrow night at 9:40 p.m. from Atlanta. And then on Thursday, we're going to have the Scars Porsche Cup Series. They'll be headed off to Monza for their first round on Thursday night at 9. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.